So I thought to kick things off with a short introduction. My name is Max Maher, and I'm a lead partner technical advisor at Sitecore. So in my role, I primarily work with partners who are implementing some of their first projects across Sitecore's Composable product suite. Having worked as a developer at 451 prior to the Sitecore acquisition in 2021, much of my experience is rooted in Order Cloud, but I've also had experience advising on CDP and Personalize implementations. I've also worked on incorporating Discover into a demo application as well. And later in the year, I'll be adding XM Cloud to my repertoire. So then maybe, just maybe, I'll be caught up on all of Sitecore's newest products, but time will certainly tell. So getting to today's session, Roland of Alpha Solutions reached out to our team a couple months ago and pitched the idea of a topic of personalization across Sitecore's products, which really created a fun challenge for our team. Because as partner technical advisors, most of us have a primary product we work with and also a secondary product. But here was really an opportunity to delve into a chief capability that is offered in many capacities across so many of our products. And not only that, from the description of this meetup, you can see that Sitecore certainly has a rich history of personalizing experiences under versions of the software that I'm not even privy to. So this gave me a great opportunity to dive into how our products handle this class of features and discuss strengths, weaknesses, and appropriate personalization use cases. So to sharpen the scope of today's meeting, we're going to just focus on products in Sitecore's Composable product suite, and the ones that in particular that are going to provide the most in the way of creating personalized experiences, which are going to be Discover, XM Cloud, and of course, Personalize. So we're going to go through each product one by one and start comparing the data used for personalization, the personalization complexity, and the analytic capabilities as well. And by the end of the session, you should have a clear insight as to which parts of the personalization journey each product is able to solve, especially when combined with one another. Okay, so we're going to start by examining the personalization capabilities of Discover. Now, Discover provides AI-powered merchandiser-controlled search and recommendation experiences that can be integrated with a website or any other online point of contact. So by tracking both products and customer information, it's able to segment audiences and optimize product search to be more relevant and generate tailored recommendations. So Discover is really all about personalizing the commerce experience. So it's about creating these rich affinities by tracking user interactions and using both visitor and product data to deliver widgets that are paired with custom recipes such as co-viewed or co-bought products. And Discover's customer engagement console, which we'll take a quick look at as well, will enable merchandisers to fine-tune the recommendation widgets. They're going to be able to configure appropriate audiences. They'll be able to boost and bury certain products, and ultimately increase the visibility of different categories of products at different times of the year. Now, these widgets can be included in email campaigns to highlight the right products to the right person. And it also comes with an extensive split testing and analytics section, which will allow you to monitor key performance indicators and understand what recipes and strategies ultimately lead to greater conversions. So I wanted to spend a little time breaking down key components that feed much of Discover's personalization engine. And that comes largely from two areas, user profiles and product profiles. So for any new visitor that lands on a Discover-powered page, Sitecore Discover creates a user profile, which feeds the user's context information to drive these Discover experiences. So one of the data points that gets added to these profiles is a user's product attribute affinity scorecard, and we'll see an example of that in a little bit. But as that user engages, Discover starts to learn from their behavior, and it updates their scorecard appropriately. So for example, if I'm a user looking primarily at cooking equipment, Discover is going to be preloaded with the correct categories and products for the e-commerce site and increase my affinity score for other products in that category. So that's going to make cooking equipment more likely to display under certain recipes that display related products. Additionally, identity stitching is continually used to tie visitor identities together. So you can imagine you may need to try to achieve a comprehensive user profile if a user is accessing a site across different devices, different browsers, different sessions, even through data that's ingested from offline ordering. And then in addition to user profiles, product profiles are also formed via data feeds and machine learning. So that's going to analyze key categories of information about your products. So one of those components is product attributes and values, which consists of information like name, gender, price of the product. Product-to-product affinities are going to tie products together that are similar in some way. So that's going to include those that are even visually similar or have similar styles or colors. Associated products are products that are often co-viewed or co-bought together, or maybe added to a cart together, or frequently revisited during certain times of the year together. Discover learned attributes are going to be generated by Discover using machine learning. So that's going to include details like the color name and any taxonomy categories. And then key performance indicators or KPIs will contain data such as the view and the add to cart counts, purchase revenue, and more details. So by combining the information built within these two types of profiles, Discover's recipes can begin to intelligently return products across a multitude of widgets. So merchandisers are going to be able to create different variants and tweak the recipes used and apply merchandiser rules to effectively split test how widget variations are actually performing against one another. So I wouldn't be surprised if most folks on this call were at least somewhat familiar with how Discover's widgets look in action, but I just want to quickly talk through the workflow and how it relates to the personalization aspects. So a first-time user may visit an e-commerce storefront. Discover creates a user profile for them with some basic metadata that we can see here. So at a default, there might not be a lot of information that you would have to be able to provide a personalized experience at this stage, but it is feasible that a merchandiser goes in and puts in a location-based rule, and maybe visitors out of California are always initially being recommended more watches. Maybe they're always just running late out on the West Coast or something, so who am I to judge? But then after they get those initial default images of those default products, that user might begin searching for a different class of product like rings. And Discover is going to start taking note of that. And it's going to note the user's interest in the product.
Golly, man.
So anyway, products that contain strong product-to-product affinities may be more likely to display alongside one another in these searches. So if a search contained a Discover learned attributes such as a color, it would be able to lean on that information and ultimately drive a more relevant product search. Then as the visitor continues to engage with the products that they search for and that they have recommended, their profiles are going to start understanding that they have this larger propensity to purchase this type of item. So the widgets are going to start to recommend more relevant products. It's going to create a really one-on-one search experience that's geared toward that shopper's inclinations. And then here you can see an example of the visitor profile affinities. So some of these are deterministic and would be given a full score, but based on the actual behavior, we can see how other factors such as categories may be ranked for a user and start to really understand why certain products are being returned for them and not for others. So just really quickly, in addition to the widgets that a merchandiser can curate, pages can also be created by the Sitecore integration team, and that's typically done during the onboarding process. Potentially more pages can be created for the purpose of maintaining things like promotional landing pages for any timed marketing events. When it comes to optimizing the widgets, it will be necessary to create split tests and run experiments to evaluate which is making a maximum impact to the business. So, for example, a marketer could test if recommendation recipe A generates more revenue than recipe B on a homepage, or which banner generates a higher click-through rate. Merchandisers also have full control over the products that can display in widgets, so they can choose to pin, boost, bury, even blacklist products depending on the audience that a widget might be targeted for. And then finally, there's a suite of reports and analytics that will allow users to evaluate performance and use that info to make informed decisions that bring in visitors and really just serves the most pertinent products to them. So developers and merchandisers are going to be able to customize all their pages and their widgets, monitor events, interact with the API, and review their analytics via this customer engagement console. So you can see just some example widgets that have been created in this screenshot that serve different use cases, such as ones that boost trending products and products that customers also purchased while viewing a specific landing page. Now, if you're new to Discover, or if you haven't had an opportunity to interact with its flagship preview search feature, we do have a use case on our official website that links you to biglots.com, and that has successfully used the service really to increase their overall site revenue, I think by about 25%. So you can check out that use case, that case study, go to their website and actually start interacting with it to see if you can see what that one-on-one personalized shopping looks like for you. Now we're going to take a look at a few tables that actually discuss the available data for personalization, the personalization complexity, and the analytics capabilities for Discover. And as we start talking about XM Cloud and Personalize, we're going to kind of revisit this table, add those products to it so you can start comparing. So starting off with a focus of the data that's available for personalization, you can take a look at the different categories of data and the specific data that actually is included. So like we saw in an earlier slide, when event data is sent to Discover, it included geolocation data. So we knew that user was from California in that example. So we're able to also customize any session fields that you want to send to Discover. And that personalization really comes into play when we're actually using preview searches, recommendations, and widgets. As we mentioned, Discover is able to ingest current order info and offline order information, so that data can be imported to produce more accurate product affinities, building up those product and user profiles that the system calculates. And then an external product catalog and categories are always required during the onboarding process to be able to actually implement Discover. It needs to, of course, know what your products are. Then we have a few more stats about the personalization complexity. So prioritization rules drive the widget variation that a visitor is actually going to receive, with AI empowering the product recommendations engine. Split testing can be conducted on recipes, and it's can be used on web, mobile, and email channels. And then recipes can be reused with widgets. And as you can see, the performance is quite strong in the responses that you can expect from the Discover API. And finally, you can take a quick look at the analytics offerings, all of which you can dive into deeper if you go into Sitecore Discover's documentation on the Sitecore website, along with the other products documentation to see just what the analytics capabilities are. I'll be sure to work with Roland as well to disseminate the slide deck so you can reference this all again later. But the big takeaway is that in addition to built-in reports, it is standard for a product feed to load on a 24-hour basis. And you can also have an incremental feed that updates product details for you on the fly. So if your source of truth for your products has a change, you can get that instantly updated in Discover. So that's going to include this portion of our presentation on Discover. We're going to go back and review how this compares with other products later, but hopefully that gives a first good initial primer of its personalization capabilities. And that's going to take us next to the XM Cloud. So overall, my orientation to this product is admittedly a little on the newer side, but I've really had an opportunity to drill into the actual personalization features, understand what's there and how it compares to what Discover and Personalize offer. And I think really a big question at this stage that comes up is whether or not the personalization capabilities that XM Cloud offers is enough, or if a full personalized license is truly necessary. And if this is a commerce implementation, is there also maybe a need to add Discover? So after we get through these next two products, I think you'll begin to see that the right offering or the set of offerings really relies on the ambition of the implementation. So more or less, what personalization capabilities does the customer really need? And does that customer also have the energy and the resources to support it? Or partner, depending on who's doing the implementation. So the personalization offered by XMCloud is considered embedded personalization. So at its base level, what it offers a user is the ability to create different variants of pages and define the rules under which a certain variant should actually be made viewable. So for instance, you could have a rule restricting a variant of a page to only visitors from a specific region of the world. Its offerings should really be thought of as a very light version of Sitecore Personalize, so you aren't tapping into the capabilities of decision models, experiments, or advanced experiences, and there isn't any direct access to the personalized tenant. So although this capability is powered by Personalize under the hood, everything that they'd be accessing would be accessed through XMCloud. Our most successful personalization users follow a cycle pretty similar to the one at the bottom in the screenshot, this listen, think, respond, learn cycle. And this table really does a good job of summarizing what that workflow looks like in XMCloud. So in the listen phase, real-time web data is collected in the form of view events. And based on out-of-the-box conditions, XMCloud thinks and serves the appropriate page variant to the site that is actually deployed by XMCloud. And then finally, its site and page analytics are available to help understand what variants succeeded. So this is a simple flowchart showing how personalization generally works in XMCloud. So first, someone navigates to your Next.js website. Then the Sitecore Cloud SDK captures view events. Then as users land on pages of the website, a personalized middleware looks at your experience edge in XMCloud to get details about the current page and what personalization variants have been created for it. If any of those variants exist, it will call and trigger an experience via the slimmed down version of Personalize in this XMCloud instance to determine if the rules match any of the current context. And that could center around session data, user data, geolocation, and other factors. And if there is a match, the personalized version of the page gets rewritten for the current page. And that is what is displayed to the user rather than the default view. Now, the process of creating a page variant involves selecting from a variety of out-of-the-box conditions, and those can be prioritized as well and stacked on top of each other. So unlike in Sitecore Personalize, those conditions cannot actually be customized. They are all out of the box. And additionally, instead of component-level personalization, personalization is only available at the page level in XMCloud. Once those conditions are selected and ranked, then the content can start to be customized. So in this example, we're essentially going through and creating a page variant for audiences that are in North America, maybe because we want to actually tie in content or a specific welcome message just for those North American visitors. Now, as we're segmenting audiences and we're determining whether content should display, XMCloud is going to be able to drill into the following data points. So content can render only during a specific time frame or maybe during a recurring time frame, and it can be triggered by certain devices or by operating systems. You could think of an example like having a link to download like an iPhone or going to like the Apple Store on an iPhone to actually download an app if you're able to detect that someone is actually on an iOS device. Also, by collecting the IP address, we can determine location, and based on the frequency and or recency that someone visited certain pages, content that includes offers specific to those related pages can display. It does support UTM parameters. So if you think of email campaigns, social media campaigns, those parameters can be used to personalize content as well. So say if you clicked on a link in an email that included the appropriate UTM, content could render based off of that refer. And then finally, there's the concept of a point of sale, which you can think of like a unique site identifier. So this is going to kind of be a good way for you to ensure, for example, that English specific content only shows for English versions of the website. So you're going to be able to create conditions off of all of these different factors, stack them, reorder them, readjust them, and use and/or operators as well to increase their complexity. But that's really kind of what that personalization looks like from a user going in and creating those variants. This is going to be the data that they have to work out to work with. So there's not really any kind of external data that you're bringing into XM Cloud. It's just what it's collecting through these view events. So as we start to compare now the personalization capabilities against our other products, we see that we do have some additional metadata that gets captured for XM Cloud. But on the flip side of that, there's more limited session data. We do support UTMs for any kind of email or social media campaigns, but we're not going to find much in the way of personalization around commerce. No attributes are getting calculated like they do in something like Discover with those affinity scorecards. And we won't be able to use the decisioning models that are available as well with Sitecore Personalize. Again, the complexity of embedded personalization isn't particularly large with, in comparison to what we're about to review. Your only channel is going to be your XM Cloud website. And users can, of course, prioritize and select from those conditions we saw, but we're not dealing with any AI recommendations engine or recipes that lean into various affinities. But you are still able to dig into traffic data via site insights and also your page insights to see how a personalization strategy might be working. Since there are no third-party data sources that are syncing in, you're just capturing that view event data for organizations that don't have a mature personalization strategy yet. The features that come out of the box with XM Cloud can be very much sufficient for them, but we're about to, of course, engage with a much more powerful offering with the Personalize product. So I'm sure it doesn't come as a surprise that the product that has the most personalization features is Personalize. As we go through the features it offers, you're going to start to appreciate how much more is possible, especially when you decide if you want to bundle this with something like XM Cloud. So if you're new to Personalize, the way it works is that by passing real-time behavioral data through a Stream API, so that data could really come from any channel, could come from our CDP, your external CDP, any other data sources as well. And after that data gets ingested, it's available for uses in experiences and experiments, as well as any advanced decisioning, which we're going to dive into today. This is then going to empower omnichannel outcomes that can deliver personalized content to your website, your mobile app, via email, etc. So we're going to explore how you can use Personalize to create experiences that really truly reflect a visitor's profile. Now, some of the data collected in the Stream API can include page and product views. So not just the page views that we had with XM Cloud, it's much more extensive. Identity details, add to cart activity, but it can also contain any kind of custom events. So you can create any events that you like that suit your needs. And your guest sessions and your events can also be extended with custom properties as well that might be pertinent for your business's needs. Now, with that data, you can begin creating experiments, determine what are the winning experiences, and then take advantage of decisioning to bring in third-party data and ultimately sharpen out the outcomes that a user would receive. And you can also customize your own conditions as well, so you can tailor these experiences to distinct audiences. You're going to find heavy use of templating as well throughout Personalize. So there's very strong reusability, makes it very easy for a developer to go in and create templates that marketers are going to be able to reuse. And we're just going to spend a little time now breaking down the different types of experiences and experiments that are available and the various components that go into building them. So when breaking down an experiment or an experience, there are generally three selections that a user makes: web, interactive, or triggered. And web experiences are much like the screenshot on the right, so they consist of form-based templates, and they're designed especially for marketers, and that allows them to create dynamic offers and content. However, developers can certainly play a crucial role in designing these, as there are also some advanced edit options that allow them fine control over the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that gets used in those templates. For those that are preferring server-side personalization, interactive full-stack experiences can also be built, and content and offers can also be fetched from any back-end systems. And finally, triggered experiences are also supported. So that's going to allow you to send personalized content, say, to an email service provider in the form of a webhook, or an SMS push service provider that could, send text or content, for instance, to a mobile device. Now, regardless of the type of experiment or experience someone chooses, many of the features still overlap. So variants of an experience can be created, tested against one another to determine that winning outcome. That can be done in the form of A/B tests, and that can be conducted when your primary objective is to reach a statistical significance or to learn the performance of all of your variants. However, we also have a multi-armed bandit algorithm that dynamically allocates traffic to those variants that are higher performing during an experiment. So that can certainly speed up that testing as well. One of the most advanced tools we'll examine is the decision models, which can aid in disseminating highly targeted offers and content. And finally, goals are going to help you assess the performance of these variants. So as we look at conditions, segments, and page targeting, custom or out-of-the-box conditions are available, similar to those that we set up in XM Cloud that looked, say, for just a North American audience. And they can be applied to indicate who should see certain experiences. And in addition to that, if you do have the CDP license, you could even restrict these to your audience segments, which you could update on a regular basis as visitors' profiles evolve. So think, for example, a segment for those who are frequent purchasers, high spenders, loyalty members. And finally, if a web experience is selected, there are ways to limit which pages an experience would be eligible to display on. You can also make that more advanced with client-side JavaScript to indicate whether or not that experience should execute on a website. Decisioning is truly how Personalize shines as an organized way to handle decision management, apply your business rules, and it gives you the ability as well to create templates so that they can be reused as logic throughout any of your experiences. These run on a Lambda architecture, and you'll kind of see as we go through examples that there's a lot that they can accomplish. So you can manage complex decisions that trigger a next best action or offer to a user. You'll ultimately be able to create these experiences with greater precision, query third-party data systems to get further insight, and you can even connect with external analytical models to have a hand in that decisioning. So the column on the far right shows the input data from Personalize that you're going to be able to use. And then you can begin to perform decisioning via programmables that extract data from those input sources and use them in a decision table that precisely returns what it is that you ask of it. So in this example, we've connected an experience to a decision model to determine what kind of offer we should make for a given guest. So let's say in this example, we have a promotion in place where loyalty members that place an order in the last 30 days get an added bonus or discount than other users. So we can indicate that to determine that, we need to pull input data from both the guest and the order data models. From there, we add these programmables, which allow you to customize server-side JavaScript that, in this case, returns the most recent order from a guest's order history, and also can just return a value of whether or not they are considered to be a loyalty member. We also have a section in Personalize for offers, so you can create these offers in Personalize, bring them into your decision table, your decision model, and connect them to your decision table to be used with this information to determine what should be the next best offer. So within that decision table, we can create numerous outcomes. Maybe if a loyalty member had an order in the last 30 days, they get the largest discount possible. If a non-loyalty member placed an order in that last 30 days, they might get the second best offer. And then you can expect similar downstream outcomes in that matrix that you define that can account for, say, what loyalty members without any order history get, and so on and so on. So this is just one example. You can really start to see the flexibility that this enables. Say you wanted to inquire on data in a third-party system, you can go ahead and connect a third-party database in here as well, have an external AI model process some of that guest data that you've curated. All of that can be accomplished within these decision models. This is just a visual example of that decision table that has that where you can kind of specify those specific outcomes guests receive under various scenarios. And this one follows just a different simple example. The input data that you see being assessed on the left here is the guest language, and we're simply just customizing a different message on our home page, depending on if we're referring to an English, a Spanish, or a French user. You can use several types of operators here as well. So you could say what message should display if someone is not an English speaker, or if we're looking at a date field, you'll be able to specify different time frames and date ranges. We also have a hit policy in the upper right. So that's going to allow you to say if all matching rules are returned, do we return all of those outcomes? Do we just return the first one? There are different selections there to clarify what it is that you're returning when a user hits a certain condition. And then after this is applied to a decision model, you're going to be able to preview this for any of your guests. So you can just take certain users, different visitors, and test what outcomes they're actually receiving to make sure that your decision tables are working as expected. So a lot of flexibility in the decisioning capabilities. And then the last component of an experiment that I'll want to review here is goals. So that's where you're actually going to define what the business is trying to accomplish. So this could be anything from increasing purchases to reducing clicks, improving your website metrics. All of that can be tested by setting a primary goal to the experiment. And Personalize will use the metrics of that goal to calculate the guest or session count that is actually necessary to determine a winning variant, that there's statistical significance, and properly measure the performance of each of those variants. So there are several built-in goal types. You do have ways of also customizing your own. In this example, we just have a simple binary revenue goal for a variant. It's been running for 37 days, almost 80,000 sessions. It was determined that variant 1 had the stronger uplift, and we may end up creating a new variant now, test that against variant 1, see if variant 1 is still the champion, or we could start using that variant in an experience across a larger audience base. So our customers that have a vision and a focus of really what they want to accomplish with Personalize, those are certainly the ones that are going to get the most bang for their buck. So it's really important to assess what are those valuable use cases that someone's going to want to achieve with their personalization strategy. And there are some common use cases that come up that I've got on this slide, but there are surely many business outcomes we can't foresee, but Personalize is still a good fit for those. So Personalize, just some examples here. They can help re-engage customers that have abandoned orders. So that would use possibly triggered experiences that could send personalized content to an email service. Web experiences can trigger messages when a person lingers on a page for a certain amount of time, or to try to re-engage someone who might be trying to exit a booking before they complete it. We, of course, saw examples of how decision models can aid in displaying personalized messages on a page or return next best offers and actions. So this list of use cases really just kind of scratches the surface of the marketing challenges that Personalize can help solve. So there's certainly a lot more that can be said about Personalize, but I hope that gives you an idea of its capabilities. And we can see how it compares across other products that we've discussed today in this composable product suite. So by being omni-channel, Personalize tracks channel information in metadata. So due to the fact that it supports data extensions as well, when it comes to session data, there's really not a limit on the type of session data you can track. You can still create extended properties on that as well. You have robust experiences that can be fully customized in addition to supporting UTMs, and data outside of Personalize can be brought in to make decisions in those decision models, as we saw. So while order history for a guest in Personalize is restricted to the last 20 orders, because of that flexibility, you could even still use those models to tap in from what might be a deeper system of truth for your orders, along with any other offline data that you'd want to bring into the model. Unsurprisingly, Personalize has the most complexity. So it allows for custom conditions, external AI models, A/B and multi-arm bandit testing, any channels, and heavy reusability across templates. As you're constructing decision models, that's certainly something that you have control over when you're making calls to other connections. They should be optimized. We recommend making sure that you return responses within 200 milliseconds. And there are certainly warnings that display as you're actually building these models if there could be a potential performance problem. And as far as analytics, you're going to have the ability to review some performance dashboards and effectively measure the performance of your goals. When you have the CDP license as well, audience segments can be regularly rebuilt and reused for certain experiences. And you'll also be able to check in on the performance of these goals on any experiences or any experiments that have accrued enough statistical data. So commonly, at least 24 hours have to pass before you actually start going through that information. And again, if you pair with a CDP license, you'll gain access to additional analytical dashboards. And then I wanted to kind of just finish with this table that it admittedly doesn't take into Discover, but it does look at several products and even combines them. So you can really get a strong sense of what are the specific personalization offerings when we have different layers of products. And again, we break it down into those 4 categories of listens. So basically, what is the data that a solution is ingesting? Think, defining your audiences and processing those decisions. Respond, the actual personalization taking place, and learn, so your performance and any deeper analytics. So this is hopefully a good way to evaluate a personalization need, see what products would be a good fit. In general terms, Discover is going to be best in breed for personalizing any product search and recommendations. Personalize does not actually directly have your product catalog, but again, a decision table could get that information from a third-party source. And also XM Cloud, just kind of generally speaking, from our examples that we looked at today, you can kind of see how it really provides a good introductory stepping point for the type of personalization that Sitecore Personalize itself really truly excels at. So since XM Cloud's personalization is using the same technology as Sitecore Personalize, it does make it easier as well to transition a customer down the road who might start with XM Cloud. They mature their marketing personalization operations, and they want to use Personalize down the road. Okay, so that's a lot of information that covers really everything I have. So I just want to again say thank you very much for your participation today. And if you'd like, I can go ahead and open things up for any questions or discussion.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope somebody has some questions. If not, then I have.
Sure.
What do you say, guys? Okay. Just a thought example. So let's see that. Let's just popped up there. Say that you're building a website for marathon runners in New York. Just should I say, Santa? Thank you. And say that on the user profile, you register that you like to run marathons or you like to run short runs. And on the website, then I want to place a banner or a tile depending on that thing. So if I'm there, then I like to run marathon, then something pops up to register for marathon, and if not, somebody else logs in that has registered. So it's actually not a lot of personalization because it's actually hard facts, right? You set it yourself on your profile. And I was thinking out loud. So yeah, you cannot use XM Cloud to do that, right? Because it's a fixed set of rules. Would be right. Thing, or you could cheat it a bit with some UTM. I don't know, URLs right, maybe. Exactly. I don't know. Yeah, and I guess with Discover, you could pass in some session data with some user groups or something, maybe.
Yeah, and I know there's that session data or some of that is extendable in XM Cloud. Yeah, since it's just view events, not really identity events for that user. I believe you're right about that limitation. I can kind of go in and see if there are any examples that try to have some base user profile info, but I think you might be right about that limitation.
Yeah. So, and of course, Personalize will be the easy choice, but that's, as you've shown, like that has the most flexibility. It's fun enough. Also comes a bit from the name, I guess.
was named well.
Yeah. But again, it's as I mentioned, like for a client that has to do this, it's also about effort for implementation and license cost as well, right? And that's actually where we start having that discussion too, and why we reached out to you at one point here that you can do personalization on different level with multiple of the Sitecore portfolio now. So what are your needs really? So this is really great, really helpful, because it's also come down to money at one point for a client.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I'll say from my experience, it's really those that really have a focus on that we're able to kind of jump in with right away. We do have some situations where maybe someone buys Personalize and they don't have a lot of ideas of what they want to do with the product right off the bat. Even in those cases, we certainly recommend that if they did go for the big product purchase of Personalize, but they might not fully be ready yet, that they start actually tagging visitors, to start getting those identity events in, view events in, add to cart events in, so that they can just start experimenting whenever they are ready. It's certainly one of those systems that I would compare with my Order Cloud implementations, and that's very much like an on and off switch. And once you've turned on Order Cloud, you've got most of it up and running. But Personalize, you can really kind of go with a crawl, walk, run mentality and kind of start slow. But yeah, if someone has XM Cloud, they don't know what they want to do with personalization yet. Maybe they want to tap into those features first and see what are they missing that they could benefit from.
Yeah, that triggers the normal thing doing Sitecore for a lot of years, that when you're in the sales phase and everybody really love the story about personalization, but that has nothing to do with this has nothing to do with, I can say Jonathan is on, he can speak more to it than me, but when people want to really get bought in on the personalization, but when it comes down to it, it just requires a lot of effort and work, and for that reason, a lot of times it doesn't really happen. Oh, that's going to be phase 2, and phase 2 never going to happen. So, but that has nothing to do with technology. That has nothing to do with technology, of course, right? But
right.
But
Yep.
Anyone else?
Yeah, yes, thanks, Max. That was great. And this might be for you, but for everybody as well. I think piggybacking on what you were just talking about, Roland, have people seen more digital maturity and an understanding of how to start to add this, or are we still seeing it be kind of something that's in an RFP and it does go to a phase 2? Because there's a lot of, as everyone has said here, there's a lot of options within the one Sitecore portfolio, and I wonder if the customers are appreciating that that choice, or if there's any confusion.
I can give some input on that. So I think for most of the projects that we work with, that personalization is always something that's being talked about, but it's a big hurdle for most clients to overcome and actually get started on it.
Yeah.
And there's a tendency to try and do too much instead of just taking small steps.
Yeah, and that's really what we recommend too. Yeah, take those small steps, start experimenting, see what works better on even small use cases. And once you've, improved conversions or made some performance improvement, then you can move on to the next thing. I think there's something you said about that, about getting overwhelmed with what's everything that we do with it on day one.
I think also, especially from coming from the Sitecore XP, where somebody's sitting there in the sales phase or whatever, oh, let's create like these different personas and create 6 different variations of the same content. That's a lot of work. That sounds really easy to talk about, but who's going to do it? Where I think with, for example, Personalize, it's really a matter of minutes before you can do some small thing that pops up on your website. Hopefully that's going to change a bit, that people can see the value quicker, like in very small steps. And so, okay, so when everybody can see that it makes a difference, or maybe they can get some increased sale or revenue or whatever, then hopefully that's going to move it. Where on the old XP stuff, it's a lot of work, and it's really hard to track whether it's worth it or not. At least that's to my experience. But let's see.
So Personalize, you can use that on if you have an older Sitecore installation. Is that a separate product similar to Optimizely, where they have Optimized as a separate product?
Yes. Yep. So yeah, it's its own standalone product. Yep.
So all the events tracking and things like that is gonna be built-in functionality and not like what you would have to do with XP.
It'd definitely be different than XP. We do have an Engage SDK that is simpler to use. That's come out a few months ago. So a JavaScript SDK that can get you started a lot more quickly. Could be used for both client-side and server-side tracking, actually.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, but you can also, like, if you even have a non-Sitecore site, you can dump it on and use Personalize anyway, right? Just JavaScript, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Of course, it might not be that sweet, but it's really easy to get going for sure. Right?
Yeah, I think in the past with Sitecore personalization, when, for instance, you want to say, well, I want to track who clicked on this link on a page, you would have to build all that functionality yourself. It would not be something that comes out of the box.
It's way easier with Personalize. And it's free, right? I don't know. Okay.
Right? Yeah, as of today. Yeah. Free trial for everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
Or authorized. Yeah.
I do
Awesome.
think, and maybe it's anecdotal because we're always waiting to get to the personalization stage, but I think that composability helps crystallize the personalization discussion in the sense that you kind of go piece by piece with the stack now in composability. So you can kind of put it on a priority backlog and say, all right, we're going to focus on, I don't know, headless commerce first. And then we can start layering in the other elements. So at least there can be a focus period to look just at the personalization aspects and build that up and discover it and try some things. So I do wonder if going from more of the all-in-one, where it's like, okay, we have it all. What do we do? Now you can kind of prioritize it, not to go from an all-in-one to all at once, right?
Hey, hey, Max, this is Jonathan. I'm based in Atlanta, so I hope it's all right that I crashed the New York user
Sorry, I'm
group,
in
but
Minneapolis, so I crashed it too. So
Cool.
That's right. All the
Passionate about
TV
the
shows are
topic,
there.
and I thought you did a really nice job just breaking down different ways you can personalize and the features of each of those. Heard someone mention it earlier. The hardest part is not actually setting it up with some of these new tools. It's figuring out where to start because there's 1,000 different directions that marketers can run. So just trying not to tackle too much at once, but picking a couple of small use cases that you could do next month and then test and learn. A lot of the reason I see customers don't get personalization programs off the ground is because they try to tackle too much or they're overwhelmed by choice. And you had one slide where you just showed a few out-of-the-box capabilities of XM Cloud as it relates to personalization. I like that a lot. I'm really interested to see how much that's used because there's a lot lower barrier to entry with the out-of-the-box personalization in XM Cloud than there was setting up profiles and patterns and engagement value and campaigns in XP. This is pretty straight ahead. So I think it's a lot easier to get started with the basics with XM Cloud. But if you have if this deck's available, I really liked the way you presented some of this information.
Yeah,
Please
I
share
can
it.
definitely send this deck to Roland, and I think you got the right idea there. I mean, as I was kind of going through, I was really learning about what XM Cloud did, and as I was going through it, I kind of had that takeaway of, oh, this would be like a really great introduction to getting, how you do personalization in the first place. It's not too extensive. It's simple, and I think that's really, you're going to get more value out of the product if you do something small sooner than if you kind of keep holding it off, of course, for the next phase, the next phase, the next phase.
Sure.
And that's really how you're going to learn quickly too, and figure out how you move faster.
Cool. Well, this was really informative. Thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, hi everyone. Praful here. and I'm a customer of Sitecore, so and of course you guys are partners. You have more access to everything, I believe. So as a customer, right, we currently are using, let's say we're using Sitecore XP, right? And when we when we are discussing the roadmap and how can we really go about moving to the latest and the greatest, which is Sitecore XM Cloud, and everything which it comes with in terms of the composable stack we have from Sitecore. I am finding it, and again, it's me, and again, my customers behind me, is how do we get ourselves from XP to XM first, and then XM Cloud. And I know XM Cloud has a slice of personalization there, within a very, it's more like a sliver, or more like, as I say, like a, yeah, let's say sliver of personalized can be. How do you see that that trajectory, or how do you see that being laid out in a way that's easy for customers to understand how this is going to become gradually in a place where we are composable, we are able to use services as they're offered in the world of tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, in my answer will be a little general. I mean, part of our overall strategy at Sitecore has really been to strengthen these relationships with our partners and make sure that they're all really educated on these products. A lot of them have also been making migrations. So one thing I would recommend checking out maybe is the Sitecore Partner Solution Catalog. If you search for that on our website, there might be some partners out there that have actually built some tools to help make that leap from, say, XP to XM or eventually to XM Cloud. It's definitely, discussions that I think are worth having with, if you have a customer account manager with Sitecore, trying to figure out who might be the right partner for these different journeys. Certainly some of our partners are more experienced in certain areas than others and have more experience on these types of implementations. So it's kind of a vague answer, but yeah, I think it's about kind of starting that conversation with us. We can try to help you find the right partner that has a vision for how to, get you going on that journey.
Okay, no, thank you for the answer, Max. I think where I'm at the even the preface of that. How do I convince my customer, basically an internal customer, is that we're not really losing anything. We're basically streamlining a lot of things. The Swiss knife example, which we always see, is that XP is like everything. It's supposed to do everything within its own power and limitations. Now, if we look at it that way from today's point of view, but then having them to say we had to lose a certain slice of functionality. Again, we're not really big on the XP or the XDP part yet, so that's good. We're good in a technical way. We don't have to really reinvent the wheel and take the customizations, port them over to XM or Personalize for that matter. So I think that's where we are currently, in a bit of a struggle phase to convince the customer we're not losing a lot, because that XP and the XM names have somewhat stuck in our heads from the historical point that XM is like a little less than XP, so why should we lose XP for XM and then go XM Cloud? So
sure, yeah, and then that can kind of go back to the composability argument and the philosophy behind, why are we going in this composable direction? And it's really because, in many cases we have these microservices that are going to continue to evolve and change, and thing that you'll want to be able to easily plug into your application, plug out of that, something that's more rigidly architected like an XP is not going to allow you to do as easily. I kind of came into Sitecore really with just the composable, product suite in my head, so I don't have as much experience with the actual architecture of XP, but with that composable approach, we are going for a flexible architecture so that you can start to use those services that you can more easily plug in and play when you need to, so that you're not stuck with something rigid and unevolving over time.
Okay, sounds good, Max. And in interest of time, I think this is good. Thank you very much.
Yep. Yeah.
Hi, I just wanted to say I completely I'm aligned with what Praful said. Now we are also in a similar situation. Like, what do we do? How do we go from here to there? What are the things we're going to lose, and how big of a lift it is? So these are our concerns too. But thank you for pointing out about the the partner catalog, that I will surely look it up to get more information. So thank you for that, and thank you for this class. It was wonderful. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for your example, was it specifically XP to XM, or was it a different kind of journey?
We are right now in Commerce XC and also XM, but we would like to go into the Oracle Cloud. That's the whole buzz now, and the Composable strategy. But we have way too much customization that we are working with, so we are not sure how will we go there. But we are like really at the baseline. We are not doing much. Yeah, and especially those marketing efforts, they really want me to learn some of those analytics and help and all that. But listening to the personalization, I feel like it'll be a good fit for what they want to do. But how do we go there?
Right, crossing that bridge. Well, I think that's actually some pretty good feedback. That might be right for another presentation, another topic that we could maybe put together on what are some strategies to kind of create those bridges, so that we can start moving toward this composable future and getting that message across. So that's good feedback.
Yes, certainly we would appreciate that, because that'll help us to talk back to our senior leadership and kind of
absolutely
make some decisions. Yeah, it'll be a great idea if you can show us some light on that.
Yeah, let me take that back, and maybe we'll put together a future session on that. I think there's a lot that could certainly go into that, especially as it relates to these different product journeys going from one to another. We do have, specifically for XC to OC, I know there are some blogs. I can send that to Roland afterwards, but I can try to see if we have other documentation, other migrations, like that you mentioned, XP to XM, XC to Order Cloud as well.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a big blog post series from one of your colleagues there. Sitecore that's done that. Yeah, how to move customers, how to move orders, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Thanks a bunch, though. Thanks.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I hope to see some of y'all in Minneapolis for MVP or for DX Minneapolis.
Sure.
That's good.
We'll see you there.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all, and thanks ton, Max. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yep. You have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.